Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this lecture, we will see some practical examples of the topic we have already discussed in previous lectures. In this particular lecture, we will be discussing practical example for process synchronization. This is the agenda of today's discussion. First, we will develop a background related to process synchronization. We already have discussed it in chapter 4. Then we will see how threads are created and what are its basic concepts. We will then proceed for sample code that would create threads within a process. And at the end, we would be discussing the output of the sample code. Let's now proceed to the first topic of today's discussion, which is the background. And the background will be about process synchronization. In order to develop a background for the process synchronization, we need to understand first point with few examples. First point says concurrent access to shared data may result in data inconsistency. What does this point mean? We have already discussed it in chapter 4. So let's develop our background. For example, you might have used global variables. Global variables are those variables which are available to all functions, or they are shared among all the functions declared within a program, while the local variables are those which are only accessible to functions in which they are declared in. No other function outside of the one it is declared in can access it. Now, for example, we have two functions, A and B. Function A updates the value of global variable, while function B uses the value of global variable and performs further calculations. General rule of thumb says only one function at a time can access the global variable, so that all functions can obtain the latest value of global variable. But if both functions A and B access the global variable concurrently, that is simultaneously, so what will happen? The result of one of the function will be wrong, as both functions access same value of global variable. But as we have just said, function A updates the value of global variable, so function B should get the updated value. But due to the simultaneous access to this global variable, both the functions receive same value, and hence the data or the output of function B goes inconsistent. Similarly, in case of hardware, since we mostly have single instances of hardware in our system, so the hardware need to be accessed in order or one after another. Let's consider the example of printer. If we activate printing for more than one documents, still the printing will proceed one after another. It will never happen that the printer will print half portions of all the documents, as this will bring inconsistencies for all the documents. So it is very important to access the shared resource one after another in order to keep the data or results consistent. Resource, as you all know, can both be hardware and software. Next topic of discussion is threads. Definition of thread is separate or independent sequence of execution within a program. A thread is a complete independent sequence of execution. You might have used different functions in your programs. So the program is represented as a single entity, while different functions inside the program represent different threads. Every function performs an independent task. So, a thread is also called as a lightweight process. A thread is a lightweight process. That means a process is having different variables, different functions, and different data structures. But a process is the thread is a lightweight process because it only utilizes its respective data structure, its respective variables, and respective memory location. So your program may have multiple threads. As I just said, a process can have multiple threads. That means your program is, if divided in different functions, that means your program will be having different independent sequence of executions. Every thread performs its respective task, and every thread shares resources with its parent. Now, who is the parent of a thread? The parent of a thread is the main process or the main program. So, a thread or a separate function shares resources with the parent process. Now, what are the resources? That can be memory space, that can be registers, that can be any files. So, both the hardware and software resources are shared between parents and children. Threads act as children of the main process. Next topic that we are going to discuss is the example, a code snippet on how to create threads practically. This is the snippet of a code. Complete code is attached as Word document and you can get it from KCMS. So this is the code snippet in which we are trying to create a thread. Remember, a thread is actually a function or an independent or separate sequence of execution within a program. So your program may have multiple threads. Now, what will be the output of this sample code? Once you will execute the code as provided to you in the Word document, it will count on the number of threads created, and also it will display which thread gets started to execute at what time. You will notice the sequence of threads execution. That is all for now. I thank you all.